Later on in the show, I'm going to be interviewing FFRF attorney Andrew Seidel about his new book, The Founding Myth, Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American, which sets out to eviscerate the David Barton bullshit about America being founded as a Christian nation. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about that in the interview. That's the whole point of the interview. But I just read that book. It's 300 pages of pure diatribe fuel. So we're also going to talk about that right now for a little bit. Because one of the points that Andrew really emphasizes throughout this book is that when they claim that America was founded as a Christian nation, they're not just lying, they're also stealing. And they're stealing from us, goddammit. Not atheists exactly, but rationalists. Free thinkers, people who value reason over superstition. I mean, setting aside our weird founding fathers fetish for the time being, look at who those people were. Benjamin Franklin would be remembered for his scientific accomplishments alone, even if he'd never gotten involved in the nation-founding business. He discovered electricity, for fuck's sake. George Washington was responsible for a shitload of advances in farming. Thomas Paine spent his waning years as a prolific inventor. John Adams founded the American Academy for Arts and Sciences. Nearly all of them were, first and foremost, men of reason. And very clearly, when they set out to form a nation, they based their decision on scientific principle, observation, reason, experimentation, theory. There's no divinely handed down bullshit in our nation's founding. It's the product of Enlightenment thinkers trying to distill the natural laws of governance and revolutionaries trying to manipulate them. That's why I find it so frustrating that virtually every political commentator that ever feels the need to hop into their rhetorical DeLorean and wrest the founding fathers into the present day does so to invoke their lamentations about modern discourse. If the founding fathers show up in the other guy's argument, it's almost always going to be embarrassed by what this country's become. And sure, if they could see Donald Trump, they might start rethinking the viability of self-governance. But by and large, I feel like they'd be too busy marveling over airplanes, computers, and nearly universal literacy to notice. America was founded not as a Christian nation, but as a scientific experiment. Hell, the founders themselves used the term the American experiment. That's clearly the language of science. Religion doesn't have experiments unless you count antediluvian human society. Hell, one of the few truly unique aspects of the government that they crafted was its separation of religion from the apparatus of government. The wall of separation, that's one of the few things that we actually built. And look, given the present circumstances, I can see how science wouldn't be in a hurry to claim America as one of its products, but all the good aspirational shit at its core is a child of science. And look, it's easy to lose track of the ideals at the heart of the American experiment when you have to peer at them through a blood-soaked history of institutionalized bigotry and slavery, but they are there. Christians fight for the past because they want to steer the future. They recognize that a myth can be stronger than the truth. Hell, it's a prerequisite to be in their club that you recognize that. And so they paint America's founding with the same historical integrity they use for the building of the pyramids or the founding of Israel 1.0. And their myths, no matter how historically laughable, still seep so deeply into the soil of American culture that they start sprouting out in textbooks and documentaries and, as Andrew highlights in his book, legal decisions. See, to win this battle, it's not enough for us to fight against their narrative. We also have to fight for the real one. And even with the truth on our side, it's hard to fight. We have to limit ourselves to the actual history, and that's not pretty. It's filled with unjustifiable wars of aggression and expansion, inhumane public policy driven by corporate greed, bigotry against every ethnic group you can name and several you can't, unrestrained capitalism at the expense of the populace, and a system of slavery so heinous it managed to be bad for slavery. So true or not, it's never going to be as easy to swallow as that romanticized, sterilized, lionized history the Christian nationalists have on tap. But if anybody's qualified to sell a hard truth in the face of an easy lie, it's us, right? We've been countering eternity in paradise with just dead for centuries, and we're still somehow here and growing. That could only be the case if the truth had its own momentum. Look, nobody's going to fight this fight but us, and nobody else could. And with all due apologies to our international listeners for this America-centric diatribe, and a quick reminder to them that if we fuck up bad enough, our nuclear shit's going to spill into your country too. It's a fight we can't afford to lose, right? Because you can't hold these truths to be self-evident if you've already abandoned both evidence and truth.